who wouldn't leave their flock and go get one lamb that was missing? And I just remember sitting there thinking, and I was just so miserable. And I'm like, Jesus, can you just come get me? Please come get me. And I love to believe that when I asked Jesus to come get me, he sent his mom to come get me.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God, those moments when heaven and earth collide. And we see God, we see his hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. In this episode, powerful encounters with saints. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome. So glad you're here for episode 64 of Touched by Heaven.
Hello, this is Laurie.
Hello, Miss Laurie. Trapper, how you doing? Laurie has a wonderful encounter with a saint she's going to tell us about. Oh, first she told me about this time, not that long ago. She got dragged to this event she had to go to. And don't you just hate that feeling? You know, you're being forced to go to something you don't want to go to. You see no value in it, but you have to go. In this case, it was her son that was in a confirmation class. And the students and their parents had to go to this church event. This guy was going to be talking about something. She didn't want to go. She didn't see any value in it. And the speaker, it was me.
I was like, I remember saying to my husband, what could this man possibly have to say for an hour? You know, it was just like, and I was blown away by everything you said. It really had an impact. So, and I've told lots of people to listen to the podcast. It's amazing.
Was there something in particular that kind of stuck?
Just, I mean, all those stories, and you just never think of, like the whole concept of, you know, God is still talking to us. You know, people never think of that anymore. I've never thought about it. It's amazing, and I truly enjoyed it. Isn't it funny that the one that sees it clearly is the person that can't see clearly?
I think it makes it easier, actually. I have no distractions. Everybody else has distractions of stuff they have to look at and everything. I don't have any distractions.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
You know?
So,
all that said, the talk she heard she didn't want to go to but ended up liking is going to be available very soon. We're going to make it available to you as a download very soon. More on that coming up in the days to come. But it's called Did You Hear What God Just Said? It's about hearing God's voice in our daily lives. More on that is coming up. But for right now, let's get back to this encounter with a saint and Laurie.
Yes, I'm guessing it was probably about 25 years ago. And I was raised Catholic and am Catholic, but I somehow managed to grow up Catholic without really knowing too much about the saints. I mean, I would see ads in our local newspaper thanking St. Jude, I think, for a miracle. And I'd think, oh, that's a little weird. But I didn't really have much knowledge about them. And what had happened is we had in our house, in front of our house, I had like a garden with roses and flowers in it. And I'd come home from work one night, and it was probably early in June when they first started blooming. And they were beautiful, and I'm admiring them. But there was one particular rose that was just stunningly beautiful pink. And I'm looking at it and thinking, I need to give that rose to somebody. That's just too pretty. Someone needs to enjoy it. And immediately coming to mind is I was taking like a karate class, and there was a lady there that was like the secretary. And I'm thinking, I should take her that rose. Like, I really need to take her that rose. So I cut it and I go to class, and it's kind of busy, and I get there and I'm feeling now like, this is stupid. She's going to think I'm a nut because I don't really know her. And like, you know, so I shove the rose in my locker and go in and have my class, and I come back out, but I got like this nagging voice in my head, like, you need to give her that rose. You like it was like a compulsion. So I took it in and I gave it to her. End of story. I leave. About a week later, I'm at class and I'm going to leave, and she pulls me aside and thanked me again for giving it to her. And she said, did someone tell you to give that to me? And I said, no, I just saw it in my garden and I just popped in my head that you would probably like it. So that's why I brought it. Why? And she said, well, my daughter's been trying to have a baby, and she's had, you know, miscarriages and problems. And she said, so I've been praying. And at the time, she probably told me the saint's name, and I didn't pay attention. But I've been praying to the saint, and the sign that your prayer is going to be answered is someone gives you a rose.
How did she feel the sign would be a rose? Where did that come from?
Well, now that I have later on and have gotten deeper into my faith and know this, it would have been Saint Therese, because Saint Teresa, when you pray to her, if what you've prayed for is going to come true or she's heard you, you are given a rose as a sign.
Yeah, Saint Therese, that particular Saint Therese, there's more than one, but that one is
Yes,
called,
Saint Teresa of Lisieux.
yeah, she's called Little Flower for just that
Yes.
reason. She is
Mm-hmm.
forever sending roses as signs.
Yes.
People ask specifically for roses or flowers. A little bit here about Saint Therese, known as the Little Flower. She called herself that. She said that kind of like in God's great big garden of all of us, she is just a little flower. She was the ninth of 9 children. At age 15, she entered the convent, very young. Her older sister was in the convent. She wanted to go too. That was too young. The nuns said no. She actually went to the Pope. She actually, there was some kind of gathering in which she kind of got in line and said, "Hey, I want to be a nun." And the Pope's looking at her like, "Well, just whatever the nuns say, just trust the nuns." And so somehow, she got her way into the convent at age 15. Wanted to be a saint. She said she wanted to be a saint. But she also said that she thought that once she got to heaven, that's where she would do most of her work, and that's certainly been true. She died at only 24, just 24. It was said that her supervisors, many of them, were pretty mean to her, jealous of her. There was just this purity and innocence, and she got some wrath for that. But she just loved everybody. She said love was far greater than any deeds that we could possibly do. She wrote some books before she died. It ended up being that many nuns would read those books, but then those books got out to the mass population, and people just fell in love with her story. And so it was only 26 years after she died that she was canonized as a saint. But the calling card for Saint Therese is that when you pray for her to intercede for you, she will let you know prayer's answered, prayer heard, she's with you. She would give you a sign of a rose or roses. And it could be in any form. It could come in any form, but that she would send you rose or roses. That was how she would answer. I know for one person it was they walked into a room and on the wall it was a picture of a rose. They come in a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I know I got one, and it was the song Everything's Coming Up Roses. All of a sudden was just blaring in my head. I was like, wait, what is that? And then I finally figured it out what it was, and it was kind of an answer from St. Therese.
And I was like blown away by it because it's kind of neat to think that, in the big picture, God used you to communicate. I mean, I'm not the type of person that would just do something like that. Like, I don't normally go around giving flowers to people I don't really know. I really felt like something was pushing me to do that. Like, I have to do that.
And that says a lot for you. That actually says a lot for you, Laurie.
And I've never had that feeling before or since, but it was just very cool when she told me about, like, well, the sign that my prayer is going to be answered if somebody gives me a rose.
It's such an interesting process to watch God answer prayer. Again, we talked before about how prayer moves the hand of God, and he wants us moving that hand. He wants us. So look at the process, how he includes everybody. This isn't just me and God having a conversation. He includes the body of Christ, right? We're all connected. This is a family. He's always stressing family. So you have the woman who works at the karate club place, right? She has a daughter who's having trouble getting pregnant, and so she's praying. She's praying to St. Therese. She knows about St. Therese. She's praying to St. Therese to intercede for her and to send her a sign that her daughter will get pregnant, that she will have a healthy baby, all that stuff, right? So she's praying to St. Therese. St. Therese then nudges Laurie, who has roses growing out front, and in particular, one rose that she wants to make sure, she's nudging her, go take that to karate class, girl, I mean, and that whole process of what? What am I doing? Why do I feel this push to do that? You're just seeing God's hand at work here, including St. Therese, including Laurie, and then delivering that. And the outcome of the prayer, the ultimate outcome?
Her daughter had a baby girl.
Nice.
Later on. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm going back to another episode in which that happened with somebody where she wanted a sign from Mary. Yeah, this was back in episode 19. Megan had received this big sign. She'd been praying to Mary to intercede for her and, give me a sign. And she got this huge sign that yes, it's a family matter, and yes, she got the yes.
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just was so tired that I just said to her, and this was just in May, May, this past May. I said, that was a beautiful sign. I can't believe it. I'm kind of like, wowed. And I said, I feel so selfish to just say, hey, can you just one more time to just make sure? I said, you're associated with roses. I said, can you just give me a rose in an unusual way tomorrow, just so I know? I said, again, I know it was you, but just, that one little thing to top it off. I kind of forgot I said that. It was one of those casual things again. And the next day at school, my students were working on their history final projects. And I had a student who came in and early in the morning, and she said, hey, can I put my project in here? I finished it early. I said, you finished it a week early? And she's like, yeah, can I just sit it in here? And then by the end of the day, I have it for the last class, she said, hey, did you get a chance to look at my project? And I said, no, I didn't. Now, see, their projects were like, it was like this kind of museum box. You would have to open the box to see all these different things she put in it. So I sat her down next to me. I said, all right. I said, and now this was about the civil rights movement, okay? So it's a history project. And we opened the box, and there's a beautiful rose across the top. And at first I didn't even think, oddly, it just didn't register with me. And I was looking at all the history stuff, and the thing I thought was, why does she have this rose in here? It has nothing to do with anything with history. And so she kept looking at me, and I was like, oh, this project's great, blah, blah. And she's like, don't you want to know something? And I said, what? And she goes, don't you want to know why I put that rose in there? I said, oh, actually, yeah. And she's like, well, the answer is I don't know. She goes, last night, I just found this rose, and she's like, I just really wanted to put it in here. And she's like, I really have no reason, but I really wanted to. And then I still didn't realize that was like my prayer last night. And I shut the box. And when I shut it, though, a little crucifix was hanging. And so that got my attention. And I opened it back up. When I opened it back up, then the rose like totally stood out to me. And what I had noticed, but I didn't notice the first time, was there was a cross necklace wrapped around it. Yeah.
And she doesn't know why she did that?
No. So I told her, I said, do you know, and I know this is public school, I don't get into too much detail, but I said, do you know what the rose means? Because I said it and she said no. And being that she had a cross necklace in there, I thought, okay, I think she must have a little bit of faith. I said, just so you know, that a rose does mean Mary. And she's like, oh my gosh. So, and we didn't go farther than that, but the fact that like I didn't even at first like register with me, but when that necklace came out and I opened it back up and it was tied around that rose, like I can't even explain the feeling I had. Because that's just, and that this girl did this project a week early. She purposely was pointing out to me, like, I don't even know why I put this in there. And then the fact that it was even with that cross, it just kind of really, it was a beautiful thing for me.
Did you cry?
Later. I was in class.
I mean, you have to. I mean, just something like that, so profound, where she says, I don't know why I did this. She's wrapping a cross around a rose. And I mean, my Lord.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! I mean, when that hits you, that just has to hit you between the eyes.
And then sometimes I wonder too. I was like, I wonder why she used her too. So I made sure I prayed for her.
Well, and tell me about that. Tell me about that girl. How connected do you think she is?
Honestly, I don't know, because we don't have those conversations
in a public school.
Right. Yeah, we don't. Yeah. So I mean, she looked excited when I said that, but I don't really know.
So I guess you got your sign.
Yeah. So
Great story. And what was it about that high school girl that God or Mary could nudge her? Yeah, take a rose in. Oh yeah, put the cross necklace around it, then put it in the project about the Civil War. What? I don't understand why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. Amazing. Beautiful, beautiful connection, obviously, to God. Beautiful. What is it about Laurie that St. Therese could nudge her to bring a rose in? It says a lot about Laurie, says a lot about the high school girl and all that. And it also says a lot about us, because we're all this way too. Could you please confirm it? Hey, God, hey, Mary, hey, St. Therese, would someone please confirm what I think I already know, right? Here's another confirmation story similar. Back in episode 6, Dar Harold, who is the wife of Jim Harold, a friend of mine who runs a couple of podcasts, Paranormal Podcast and Campfire Podcast, both very successful. But his wife, Dar, had this encounter with Mary, It happened the night Dar's mom passed away. And this is Dar's wonderful story of encountering a saint.
2 in the morning, around 2 in the morning, I woke up. I looked at the clock. I said, oh, why am I getting up now? I just went to sleep a couple hours ago. And I was on my side and I looked, Jim was next to me. I look over his shoulder and there was a vision unlike I've ever seen. And all of a sudden I had like such complete peace over me. It was just like so calming and just so, I was in awe. And here it was. And what I would recognize, I knew immediately was Mary, but unlike any depiction you've ever seen of her. She was wearing white and kind of like a veil over her head, but not, like I said, nothing that I've ever seen, and I've seen every holy card, every depiction of Mary known, and it was nothing like what I've seen. And just such a beautiful smile on her face, just looking at me. And I rubbed my eyes. I'm like, okay, I am dreaming. I poked Jim. He wasn't waking up. And she was just over his shoulder, and it was very brief. And then she was gone. And I thought, oh my God, what am I, I'm not dreaming. What the heck did I just see? This is unbelievable. I'm like, it was gorgeous and peaceful and just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And I felt so much I just like happiness. It just felt so good. And I, immediately turned over and fell back asleep. And not even an hour, I think it was maybe close to 3:00 in the morning, the phone rang and my dad said that my mom had passed. And I felt immediately it was her way of telling me everything was okay. After I saw Mary and then she passed and I put it all together, I thought, I think she's okay. It was her way of telling me she's all right.
Beautifully so. I mean, the smile. You say you've never seen any depiction of Mary this way. In the sense of, is that a comment about what she was wearing, about her face? What?
Yeah, about her face, her looks, her eyes, just like, things that I've seen that maybe are close, but not quite, but I knew immediately it was her. Beautiful, just gorgeous, but not the traditional, how she's kind of depicted. So I don't know, ethereal, and she didn't, common. She just looked very common, like a common person you'd see.
But beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. And just a happy feeling, oh my goodness. Never had that feeling since, you know what I mean? It's just very hard to describe.
Reassuring and smiling because she made it to heaven. Otherwise, Mary's not showing up. There's just no question. She's not showing up unless she's in heaven.
Right.
And reassuring you that she's in heaven. We got another one. We got another one on our side.
Yes.
Talk about your relationship with Mary. Was there one at all?
Yeah, nothing like what my mom had. And I kind of just, like I said, she was Jesus' mother. She was very special, chosen, but I didn't feel like I had that personal relationship with her, like my mom did. And I just, I always, prayed to her and admired her, but never that closeness until that has happened. And now, when I'm really stuck and I feel like I need my mom, I go to her. She's my mom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Mom, and not my mom that was here on earth, but she's my mom. So it has changed my relationship tremendously, with her. She's, Jesus is for me. I mean, he's the one I go to. He's my go-to all the time. But when I need something special or I need more comfort that like a mom would give you, she's the one I go to, and she always comes through for me now.
Okay. Any other outcome of that? Did you shift at all in terms of Mary after this?
After that, I did ask for some more signs that she was okay. And I said, I don't want to know, I don't want to know everything. I just want to know she's okay. And I know you gave me the biggest sign. I said, but I just want some extra reassurance now that I'm not in that moment. And it was very weird because, my mom, always tied roses to Mary. It was very special for her, roses and Mary. And a few days later, it was at the house and helping my dad with things and getting things going. And I had looked in the mailbox and there were rose petals in the mailbox. I had been given another sign, and it was just a few. And the odd part about it is there are no rose bushes anywhere near the mailbox. It's a mailbox that comes into the house, so it's not like one on the street. I mean, I don't know who would have thrown rose petals, and it was just, I think we got 2 or 3 that were in there. Just the oddest thing. But that was my last thing I had asked for as reassurance that everything was good and she was okay. Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
Very
How
strange.
perfect. How perfect. How
It
perfect.
was.
Red
It was
roses. Red
absolutely
roses.
perfect.
They were red.
Red rose. Yep.
Yeah.
Red rose petals.
That's Mary.
And that's fun too, because I mean, my dad has he had some rose bushes in the backyard, but no red. So where these came from, I don't know. Very odd.
Yes, you did.
Asked everybody, asked my, you go through all the, okay, I'm going to be, seated in reality for a moment. Let's see. Okay, Jim, did you put something in there? Did anybody, Dad, who was in the house? Nobody was in the house. Nobody had been by it, So I'm like, nope, that's my sign. I got it.
Yeah, that's Mary.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How perfect. How perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Confirmation from heaven, from God, through saints, Mary, St. Therese, through roses. We certainly have our share of roses in this episode. In fact, going back to Laurie, who originally got that nudge to, take that pink rose from the front yard and take it to the karate girl.
So the landscaper came and tore out all the roses and all the flowers and put Roundup on. And then
were they supposed to tear out your roses? Was he supposed to? Oh, he was.
Yeah, because we were just placing it with like some shrubbery or something a little. Like
and Roundup kills everything.
So he did it. And about 2 years after the fact, I was out in the yard and I noticed that in between like a shrub and that pink rose didn't die. It had come back. And it's still, it never died. It's still in my garden and it still produces beautiful pink roses. That
one particular pink rose is the one that survived.
Right. And it's the one that I had cut and given into the lady. So I like to think like that's kind of St. Teresa's way of saying, I'm not going away.
Yeah. Heaven's still talking to you, girl. Yeah. Heaven's still talking to you. Isn't that cool?
Pretty neat. I'm honored if it only happened once.
Oh, that's sweet. That's very sweet. That's very cool.
I, for a long time in my adulthood, I fell away from the church. Not because I didn't I wanted to, but you know how you let life get in the way of things. I had always had, especially in my adult years, problems with depression. And I just remember the story where Jesus said, when one lamb, who wouldn't leave their flock and go get one lamb that was missing? Everybody would go do that. And I just remember sitting there thinking, and I was just so miserable. And I'm like, Jesus, can you just come get me? Please come get me. I don't want to be like this. And I also started getting at the time from Catholic, I don't know if you know the Catholic company, but I started getting emails and they're like a meditation and like the scripture for the day and then a saint. And I started reading those. And as time went on, I got an invitation from them for one of their series on Fatima. And I always thought Fatima always amazed me. I didn't know much about it, but I'd be like, why would Mary, appear to 3 kids in Portugal? That doesn't make sense. So I started reading the series and it changed my life because it was so beautiful. And it brought me back to the church. And I love to believe that when I asked Jesus to come get me, he sent his mom to come get me.
That's gorgeous. Fatima is huge.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
It's huge what happened. And is not given the attention it should. Heck, I went to Mass on both the first and last day of the 100th anniversary of the apparitions, May 13th and October 13th. And in both days, it wasn't even mentioned at Mass. How is that even possible?
You know what? And you said that, or when you said the Lady of Guadalupe, I never heard about it. I think the church needs to publicize this more. This stuff has happened. it probably still continues to happen.
I love God's oldies. They're great, but his new music, I adore his new music because it's happening all around us. This is the cool stuff. Look what he's doing right now. What did he do today? And that's what excites me, what God did today. That excites me that it's the same God.
I wish they would talk about it, because it's like, it makes perfect sense when you read the story and what the people experienced, and what she warned about, and how it all really came true.
Every prophecy came
how
true.
It totally came true. And when you think of what we're dealing with today in our society, with things falling apart, where did it come from?
You pray. Keep in mind what you prayed. Come find me.
Mm-hmm.
He came and found you. He found you through Mary, through Fatima. Started the process. But look who came back. Look who came back. You
Yay!
came back. Really, you came back.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of my biggest things that bothered me is I wasn't being a good role model for my kids. It bothered me, because I thought my kids need to see that. They need to go to church. There's no other way. They need to know this, and no one else is going to tell them unless I tell them.
Mm-hmm. It's true. That's
and
true.
if it's not important to me, it's not going to be important to them.
The school my kids went through, I talked to the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I told them stories, and it was interesting. What was so gratifying was that night my wife went to a retreat, and 3 of the women there were moms of the kids that were in the room, and all 3 of them came running up to my wife, and they go, "Wait, did your husband speak at the school today?" Yeah, why? And it was like, "Oh my God, my kid got in the car and couldn't stop talking about the stories. Couldn't stop talking about the kids were like jacked about these really cool stories.
They are cool stories.
And they're real. It's amazing. They're real.
They are.
And I don't remember what stories I tell half the time anymore, but they're just cool stories.
Yeah, they are. The story about the palm tree falling over at the moment.
Oh, the palm tree story. Yes, from Maria Manna. Remarkable. This is, she's over at her fiance's house, Chris. Upstairs is his 11-year-old boy with the barking dog, and the dog is just going nuts up there, barking up a storm, while they're downstairs trying to watch some television.
Just in time to watch, I don't know if it was Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, and we sat on this big chaise lounge chair. It was huge that both of us could sit on it. And beside the TV, as you're facing the TV, to the right of the TV was a huge palm tree. And it was about 6 feet tall. And the pot that it was in, probably across, was about 3 feet. So this was a huge, huge plant. We hear the dog barking upstairs. Chris goes, "What is he doing to that dog?" And we're continuing to watch. And then all of a sudden, that big 6-foot palm tree falls directly in front of the TV. I mean, dirt and all, everything. It just toppled right over. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he goes, "How did that happen?" And I said, "This is your house. I have no idea." He goes, "No, you don't understand. Like, that thing weighs about 150 pounds. There's no way." And then he goes, "What is he doing to that dog?" So he marches up the stairs. He opens the door. The dog immediately stops barking. And there's Kyle lying on the bed with the belt of his robe tied around his throat, and he was blue. And he had his fingers on it around his neck, almost like he wanted to take it off. And we just found him there unconscious with his fingers in the thing, trying to take it off. And I was following behind Chris, and he goes, Maria, he's dying. So he started loosening it up, and he slapped him a couple of times on the face. So Kyle started coming to. I said, "Should I call an ambulance?" He goes, "No, he's coming to. So, oh my God, we cried so much. But if it wasn't for that plant that fell in front of the TV, we would have found a dead boy. I mean, I'm still shocked. I can still see it in front of my eyes, all the dirt. But after all that happened, in the middle of the night, Chris wakes me up, and he said, That's it. That was divine intervention. God made that plant fall in front of the TV to distract us so we could go and save Kyle. God did that. That was a Jesus thing. And Chris said, that's it. My life is devoted to Christ. I am, Maria, find me a church to go to. I got to go to a church. And he said, in the middle of the night, he went looking for the cross and he goes, where's that necklace? And I said, what necklace? He goes, the necklace you bought me. Where is it? And I said, well, it's in the jewelry box. And he went and got it. He goes, I'm never taking this off. You know what? Trapper Jack, he has never taken that necklace off.
That's amazing.
I got chills again. I just get chills at that. That's
God's
mercy to do that. Talk about going and getting the lamb that wandered away. Well, the beginning of the church, they had no trouble writing by the stories of angel encounters and miraculous healings, and I mean they had no qualms about putting that stuff in the book.
Well, and then I was, like I said, that little reading I do every day. Today's St. Polycarp.
Oh, that's an incredible story.
And he was, when they, he said, they burnt him, and he didn't feel the pain
and
of it.
It didn't burn.
I'm always amazed because you'll read these stories and they'll be like, well, you drowned them and the person wasn't drowned and they didn't, and then
hot oil.
And then then at the end it goes, so they beheaded them.
Yeah, this guy, he was 86, martyred at age 86.
Yeah.
What's his name? Polycarp.
Polycarp.
Yeah. 86 years old. What a threat, huh? What a threat. So they tried to burn him. They said he smelled like bread baking.
Yeah, he let off a good. Yeah, smelled good.
And that he didn't burn, so they had to stick a dagger in his heart to kill him.
Yeah,
that's a holy man.
Yeah, and those stories were amazing.
Thanks, Laurie. What's the takeaway in this episode? What did God just say? What a family! What a family we have here, from the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, to the angels and saints who are praying for us, interceding for us if we ask them to. As we pray for each other down here, it's quite a family. That's what it's about. You have a story? Love to hear your encounter story. Get a hold of me at touchedbyheaven.net. I need your story, touchedbyheaven.net. Thank you for helping us out through patreon.com. Look for Trapper Jack or Touched by Heaven podcast. And coming soon, the availability of Did You Hear What God Just Said? It's about hearing God's voice in our daily lives. More coming up on that. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week here on Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.